live. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I'm one of your co-hosts, Blake Ruffino. Alongside me is my counterpart and co-host, Joe DeLeone. Good evening, good sir. How are you?
I am doing fantastic. I am extremely excited to yell with you about our playoff brackets, put those together before the show. And I think we're going to have a lot of disagreements here because you were already taking digs at my bracket when I was showing it to you before the show.
I didn't anticipate. I mean, I don't think we argued. I just said that you had Notre Dame going 10-2 if you got them at the place that you have them in.
Okay. Well, I'll clarify with that without giving away too many spoilers or any confusion at the current moment. I'll explain that later. But I think we're going to have a nice discussion. I'm excited to do the bracket preview. I'm excited to talk also doing Heisman later. It feels like we're really getting prepared to turn the page to week 0, which will be the show that we do on Wednesday.
Next Monday is week 0 week.
That's why we're getting ahead. We're getting ahead. Wednesday is going to be our week 0 preview. We're beating everybody to it. We're not getting beat to week 0 previews, Blake.
There is no respect right now in the general world for week 0 more than there is for the Ruffino and Joe shows.
Exactly. That's why we're going to be the first show, the first college football show to do a week 0 preview. We will be the first ones.
Hopefully we are, because somebody will hear us saying this and then they'll start one. So
I know.
Nevertheless, yes, tonight we will give our playoff bracket and our playoff winners, our 1 through 12. Remember, Joe, we got to probably remind people this seeding is not like it was a season ago. Notre Dame can get in the top 4. There is no conference like, hey, the ACC gets here, the Big 12 gets here. There is none of that. This is straight seeding, but there are some still automatic qualifiers. So I know that we will talk about that. However, we are in a situation here tonight between you and I. We will get to our playoff brackets presented to you by FanDuel. Another thing that we're going to get to and present it to you by FanDuel as well is we're going to give you two players that we think that can win the Heisman and a long shot that we think is going to win the Heisman in the 2025 season. We will do that. But, Joe, tonight we got to start off with some really interesting news, as there's a lot of things coming out and what might sway some people to change their bracket. From Greg McElroy and what he saw this past Saturday in the Alabama scrimmage, as Greg McElroy of ESPN and Klubnik, the McElroy and Cube show, I think it's what it's called. I'm apologizing if I am missing that, but he did come out and start their show today talking about being at the Alabama scrimmage, talking about Ty Simpson looking very, very good. Joe, you buying into Greg McElroy talking about Ty Simpson? You buying the Alabama Crimson Tide?
Yeah, I'm buying in, and it was kind of expected that Ty Simpson would be the leader in the quarterback battle. He is equipped. He's got the tools to be successful within this offense. I thought what was really interesting was hearing McElroy in the clip that we're reacting to that he shared on his Twitter was basically just saying that he was overall impressed with the quarterback room. And I went on 3. There was an article published by Pete Nakos earlier today that had some camp intel on some of these quarterback battles. A lot of the intel is pretty bare bones, but one thing caught my attention was that, and this is in the article, quote, sources continue to rave about the maturity of true freshman Keelan Russell. So I think that this quarterback room has been well recruited. It's been well developed. And I brought this up before. If there is a world where Ty Simpson and Austin Mack are struggling, I feel like it's possible for Keelan Russell to find his way onto the field.
Hold your horses, young buck.
I'm just saying.
Everybody wants to play with the new shiny Christmas toy. Calm down.
I'm just saying.
No, you're throwing in a young freshman quarterback who, quite honestly, if he would have emerged, the storyline coming out of the day would have been he's taking first-team reps. He's not.
Okay, so if we remember back when I did the Alabama preview, and this is a callback to that, what I had said, I don't think that they're going to start Keelan Russell. I don't think that he's going to be ready to start in any circumstance. And we're going to see my playoff bracket. I think Alabama is going to be great this year. But things go awry, and say down the stretch, they lose a game that they're not supposed to, and they're in the 3-loss range. What's stopping them from doing the whole DJ Lagway situation? of throwing Keelan Russell, who's a big, strong athlete and can make a lot of big, splashy plays, giving him a shot. I feel like that would cool the heads of Bama fans if in that theoretical situation things were struggling. I don't think Russell starts. It's just specific to one scenario where the season doesn't go well.
I'm not buying Nate Coates' report. I think because of a recruiting headline and them being a big part of recruiting, throwing in a 5-star quarterback that they deemed the number one quarterback in the country or one of the top quarterbacks in the country, that gets headlines. What I'm going to bet in on is, Joe, if there's a true quarterback battle, Bennett, look, think what you want about Brian Kelly, whatever you want to call him. I don't really give a Rudy poo. I've seen quarterback battles up and close. Guys take first-team reps if there's a battle. I don't think he's close. I really don't. I think that if something really big did happen to what you're saying, maybe they give him a shot. In reference to what McElroy is saying, for what it's worth, I don't – look, he talked about how flawless he was. Ball came out on time. Offense looked really good. They did a lot of really good things. Maybe they did. What I'm a little skeptical on is the way that he was pushing how good he looked. There could be some things where, hey, man, he made some really big throws. The offense did some really good things. Well, maybe he is that guy. Maybe he can be that guy. The one thing I'm just very interested in was that he came back at the end of the video of what we were discussing that he posted on Twitter and said, oh, well, he missed a receiver on the back shoulder. He missed a guy over the middle. He missed a guy on a fade route. Well, then he's not flawless. Okay, there's still misses. And when are these misses occurring? That's number one. Number two, I think everybody, though, feels like he's won the job. And I think that that's the biggest thing. This is over. So for me, I do think that there's a lot going into the offseason talking about, in Grubb's system, he's going to be better. Okay, well, hold on. They had 3 first-round receivers, okay? Like at Washington. They had a first-round quarterback at Washington. Again, I think we need to pump the brakes on some of these things that we're talking about. I don't know if Ty Simpson can do some and make some of the throws of what Michael Penix did 2 years ago, the last time we saw Grubb in a college uniform or in a college situation. I don't know that. What I do know is this. I feel like, for me, in listening to them and listening to people that's around that program, they are gaining more confidence than what they ultimately had in the beginning of this. That's what I'm getting. I think he will be more than serviceable. I think he'll be a good quarterback. I just don't know how much faith people had in him to start with, and that's why they're like, oh, man, it's a really good throw. Okay, sounds good. I do think he can help lead Bama to a playoff, though. And I think both of us will get there when we talk about it.
I think that the biggest part with this is that Ty Simpson doesn't need to be on the Michael Penix level in order for them to get there. A lot of and Michael Penix was tremendous when he was at Washington, but a lot of the success within this offense comes from wide receiver play. And I think that where we're going to see the big jump and just a lot of highlights, impactful moments, it's going to come from the receiver room. And it's led by one of the best receivers in the country in Ryan Williams. So even if Simpson, at that point, as long as he's serviceable, if that's what's being noticed in practice is that he's serviceable. I like the point that you're bringing up here is we got to take what McElroy's saying with a grain of salt. So we got to take his analysis, gear it back a little bit. If he's incredibly blown away like he's talking about, it means that he'll probably be an above average starting quarterback at Alabama this season. McElroy is a former Alabama quarterback. He is tied to that program until he's out of the media and he retires. Anytime that his analysis on Alabama comes out, we have to remind ourselves that I'm not calling him a homer. He's actually one of the least homerish former players of a team out there, but there's always going to be something that leaks in when it comes to evaluating stuff like this.
Fair, and he's a part of the media, and he's a former player, so he gets access that other media don't or doesn't. What would have other media have said if they were out there? I don't know. I don't know if those media members would know more about quarterback play than him. Right. But I will remind you of one massive thing about Ryan Grubb. He wants to run the football. Like, I think people are only attacking this with Ryan Grubb in reference to throwing the football. I will remind people when Oregon and Washington played in the regular season in 2023, a massive game, Michael Penix had one interception and one touchdown. He threw for 319. He threw the ball a lot. Joe, Dylan Johnson had 152 yards and 2 touchdowns in that game. He ran the ball 28 times. They want to establish the run. I think what people have done to some extent has forgotten what got Washington to the big dance in the first place in 23 under Ryan Grubb. What got them there? Joe, they were running the football effectively. Like, I know Penix, I know they were going fast, I know they were doing a lot of things. They ran the ball. And the biggest thing that's going to help Ty Simpson is running the ball. Newsflash, everybody. Do you have any idea what to expect week 1 versus Florida State? I don't think you do. I think things could look a little sluggish early because you have no idea what to expect. Give Ty Simpson time. I think he'll be fine.
Yeah, that's the main final takeaway with all this is be patient. He's going to be fine. And if he's not, as I continue to antagonize, got a really gifted kid in Keelan Russell who is not that far behind him. Look, all I'm saying, I think it does mean something that he's getting brought up because very rarely do freshman quarterbacks get brought up in practice.
I read their LSU report, and they were talking about the second-string quarterback and Michael Van Buren turning heads, and I'm out there every day, and I'm like, this is a bullshit report. Sorry. I'm out there every day. 2023, speaking of that season, Garrett Nussmeier's turning heads. He didn't take a first-team rep. He did not take a first-team rep.
Okay, I get what you're trying to say. It does at least serve something that if he's being brought up.
Fair. If he were there right now in reality, the first thing that would have came out of Greg McElroy's mouth today was, hey, there were some bad throws. As soon as they were out, then here comes Keelan Russell. What it would have told you would have been 2 things. Number 1, they don't trust Ty Simpson. And number 2, I think 2 things can be true at once. We heard at SEC Media Days, Kalen DeBoer made no bones about it. If we play today, Ty Simpson's our quarterback. Ryan Grubb was interviewed last week, and what Ryan Grubb said was, hey, what's the biggest thing about this offense? He said Ty Simpson's growth. Of all the things he could have said, offensive line play, the receiving room's deep, tight ends look good, running backs look good, run game looks good. All the shit he could have said, of all of it, he said Ty Simpson's growth. I'm telling the vibe I'm getting is they didn't know what he was going to be like going into the fall. That's how I feel. I think everybody's like, oh, well, Ty Simpson, he had a game against USF. He couldn't do crap, and then you come out here like, oh, this guy's supposed to be the savior. Well, and then you go out there and the kid's making some elite throws and you're like, ruh-roh.
I'm not trying to stage it as at the current moment that Keelan Russell is bearing down and breathing down Ty Simpson's neck.
The way you sounding right now is
no. But that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that it's promising to hear that a true freshman 5-star is standing out. And all I'm trying to pitch is a very specific scenario. I have no idea if it probably won't come to fruition. They're probably going to be fine. Again, we're going to see my bracket in a few minutes that I think Alabama gets to the college football playoff. They're not getting to the college football playoff if they have to play Keelan Russell.
How about this?
Not.
How about this? Ty Simpson is plus 1,600. He's 5th on the odds on FanDuel to win the Heisman Trophy.
Okay, see, that was what I was saying to you pre-show. I can't get there. That's ridiculous. At least Arch has played some games. At least our Arch has contributed in specific packages for Texas. Ty Simpson has played in garbage time. But that is a bridge too far that he's on that high up in the Heisman odds. It must be Bama fans who are betting that up as high as it is.
What do they know that we don't?
These markets are influenced. I don't like that statement. I don't like when it comes to betting odds. Fans bet odds in certain directions all the time.
Fair. Very fair. I agree with you. All right. Everybody do us a favor. Hit the like and share. Share to all those groups if you're on Facebook and to all those social media pages. You're watching us, listening to us on YouTube. Like, subscribe, notification bell, wherever you listen to podcasts. rate, review, and subscribe. Joe, let's get to it here. It is time for you and I to make our college playoff predictions here. Now, I think what we're going to do here is you're going to read off your 12. I'm going to read off my 12, and then we'll get into who's going to win here. But I kick it off to you first. Who are your 12 teams that are making the college football playoff this season?
My 12, my number 1 seed, Texas, 2 seed, Clemson, 3, Penn State, 4, Georgia, 5, Oregon, who would face off with 12, Toledo, 8, LSU, who would face off with 9, Ohio State, 7, Notre Dame, who would face off with 10, Miami, 6, Alabama, squaring off with 11, Texas Tech. Also, wait, before you jump in with yours, the current favorites on FanDuel to win the national championship, if anyone was wondering, Texas is at plus 550 with Georgia at plus 650 right behind them.
Penn State not far along with Ohio State at plus 700 there too, Joe. All right, the real bracket. Here it is. All right, number 1, I have Georgia. Number 2, Penn State. Number 3, Clemson. Number 4, Texas. Number 5, Ohio State. Number 6, LSU. Number 7, Alabama. Number 8, Notre Dame. Number 9, Arizona State. And then coming in at number 10, I have Oregon. 11, I have 2 Big 12 teams getting into the playoff. Give me the Red Raiders, baby.
See, I got people in the chat telling me I got a bad bracket, and you're over here with 2 Big 12 teams. Sorry, continue.
Number 11, the Texas Tech Red Raiders. And then I ended up with number 12, UNLV. Yeah, they're mad at you in the chat right now, but it's okay. They can make their own bracket. But, Joe, as we look at yours very quickly, when you look at all this, what are some key points that you want to get to here?
One of the main things I want to emphasize, I think that this is a 2-team race between Texas and Clemson. I've been saying this for some time now. Those are the 2 most talented rosters with the two of the best coaches in college football. I think Georgia is absolutely firmly going to be in the mix, but I think that Texas is just a slight hair above them. I think that the quarterback play is going to be better from Arch than it is from Gunnar Stockton, and that is the separation point for me. But on the Clemson side of things, Blake, I think more people need to take this Clemson team seriously. I think a lot of people assume how poorly they've played over the last couple of years, which is away from our normal expectation, makes us believe that they're going to be 10-2. They'll squeak their way in. Maybe they'll win the ACC. They have bona fide first-round picks all over their defense and a quarterback who could go first overall. A receiving unit that has 2 future first-rounders in Bryant Wesco for 2027 and Antonio Williams for 2026. This is one of the most gifted rosters, and I have a coach who's already won a national championship. Why wouldn't I pick that team to get there? So that's my big emphasis point with all this. I think a lot of people are going to nitpick the specific seeding and placements of teams. There's going to be a lot of teams with similar resumes, and I think that this year the resumes are going to be a lot stronger. Last year's case was an aberration. We're not going to see that again.
Let's get to Clemson very quickly when you talk about them. I do think that there's some holes. When people talk about them, I feel like when I look, I see across the country, people have them at 1. I'm not disagreeing with having them there. But when we talk about them, saying that they have the best overall roster in the country is a little rich for me. Because that same front 7 returns, and the last time I saw them, they gave up close to almost 300 yards rushing. That's not scheme. It's not scheme. If you know offensive line run game play, it's not scheme when Peter Woods is getting pushed off the ball by a guy who was a backup guard that had to come into the game. Joe, be honest with you, that's 1v1 and one guy winning and the other not. Sammy Brown not being able to get off blocks against a center that had to come in the game.
A true freshman.
And
he's a true freshman. You're
okay.
You expecting
Parker wasn't. He had 1 tackle for loss against ranked opponents a season ago. 1. So I do think that they are very, very, very talented. I agree with you. I think they're winning the ACC. I think they can get to the Final Four. Hell, they might even get to the big game. To act like that defense, who is very talented, doesn't have question marks coming off of what happened a season ago is a bit much. The most talented roster, I'm not there yet when I can turn on that Texas film and say, no, they're not. So I'm not going to go there with you and say that they're the most talented roster. They could be in the Final Four, Final Five, hell, even Final Six. There are things defensively they got to show. I think they can. They bring in a new DC. Things can instantly change for them. And we're like, oh, well, scheme did matter on this one. But, Joe, when you're running inside dive and you're getting your ass whooped, that ain't got nothing to do with scheme. So, again, I will just bring up, I see a lot of people talking about them. I agree. Wide receiver room, quarterback. Joe, what are they going to do in their own run game? You're converting a wide receiver. You're trying to get a true freshman ready. Sounds good. Maybe you get by against LSU and you can get by LSU in doing that when you're putting Randall and those guys in the running game. When you get in the playoffs, you can't do that to some of these physical teams like Texas, Georgia, Notre Dame, etc. It's not going to be acceptable if you got to go Bama against those teams. You can't do that.
I completely disagree with you on the notion that their defense can't be vastly better right from the jump.
Hold on. I literally said that they can be.
Okay.
What I'm saying is to act like they don't have questions when they just gave up 300 yards rushing, but it's a bit much for me.
But this isn't a circumstance. There are plenty of rosters, I think, in college football that are just in the general playoff mix that have talent questions. Clemson, to me, does not have a talent question. I've said on this show, I had a former Clemson player that I spoke to, and I asked him, what do you think of the transition of defensive coordinators? What do you think about that? And he said that he didn't think the last guy who was there when he played there, he did not think that he was getting the job done. He didn't think that he was preparing the guys on a week-by-week basis effectively enough, nor were they maximizing their talents to be the most successful. You can't obviously out-scheme situations where you're getting blown off the ball, but I don't think that this is purely that being the only reason why they got ran all over a number of times last year. They have one of the most gifted defensive line units in terms of pure talent in the country. I am not saying that they have the best defensive line in the country. I am not saying that they have the best overall roster in the country. Mm-hmm. But the group of guys that they have with Tom Allen leading that group, I think that they're going to be locked in and ready to go. And one of the things that I'd like to last point out that I was reading is the simplicity of that defense that Tom Allen is working on and is implementing. I have been reading that a lot of Clemson guys are talking about how easy it is for them to learn, and it is helping them play better so that they just go out there, they react, and they play football. That's how you improve to me. And that's why I'm willing to bet on them being the number 2 seed and getting there. They're plus 1,100 on FanDuel, by the way, to win a national championship.
And it ain't got nothing to do with you getting blown off the football. It doesn't. I'm sorry. You can disagree with that, but you'd be wrong. It doesn't. Now, I do think offensively, from a pass game situation, I think a lot of people look at their front seven and say that's where it's going to make the biggest jump. I don't know if I agree with that. Joe, they might have 3 first-round wide receivers. They very well may. I mean, that's where I'm starting to be like, all right, if Klubnik is who we think he's going to be, with 3 potential first-round dudes, shit. Good luck. Good luck.
This is not to spend too much time on Clemson, but this is the biggest part about this is there's a lot of quarterbacks this year that people are projecting are going to take huge leaps. He's, frankly, the only one that actually stepped up and made big plays late in games like he did in the Texas game. Drew Aller does not have that on film. He doesn't. I would like people to point that out to me, and don't pull up the USC game where he threw 3 interceptions. Klubnik stepped up when he needed to.
I'd also just make one little bone on that. He ain't ever had a receiver like Wesco and Williams and the boys either until now.
He had Tyler Warren.
That's a tight end. All right, Joe, pick apart what you think on mine that you want to discuss here.
I know I'm being a pain in the ass, but
here comes LSU.
No, it has nothing to do with LSU. I'm actually Oh, actually, I might revisit that in a second. My problem is you putting two Big 12 teams in here. I think that
Okay.
you and I were talking about this pre-show. I can't buy in with all of the tough resumes and quality resumes that we could see this year. If there are enough 10-2 teams, we will not get two Big 12 teams in. We won't. If there would have to be two 11-1 Big 12 teams. So I'm strongly against that.
No, I don't completely disagree. I kind of did that because I was just.
Why do you hate Miami? That's the better question. That's the.
Yeah. So if you want to get to Miami, let's go to Miami. Okay. The thing with Miami is it's not for me that they don't have talent. It's not for me that I don't think that they don't have a quarterback that can get them there. It has nothing to do with their offensive line, defensive line. It has nothing to do with bringing in all those DBs. Can I see Mario get there? Before I keep putting him in the playoff mix, can I see him actually win the big games? Can I? Because until we get to that, Joe, we have done this for everybody, literally everybody, whether it be Ryan Day, whether it be Kirby Smart early, whether it be Dabo over the last couple of years. We do this for everybody. Comes to Cristobal, oh, Blake's a hater. Blake's a hater. No, I'm not a hater. Can I see you get there? Because you had by far the best offense in the ACC a year ago. By far. Wasn't close. And you still found ways to lose. Are you going to find ways to lose this time? If I'm not playing around, Texas Tech has more talent than everybody on their schedule. And Joe, quite honestly, I think that you could be in a situation with the Big 12. Here's a hot take. Both of them could be 11-1, 12-1 going into this thing too. So you get to a place where, are you really going to leave out after what you did with SMU a season ago? Are you going to leave out a 12-1, 11-1 Texas Tech or a 12-1 Arizona State for a 10-2, 9-3 Miami team? No, I don't think they will. I legitimately don't think that they will. Because I know Miami's going to have a tougher schedule. I get it. They got Notre Dame, and they got to go through the ACC. But the bottom line remains is, Joe, I think that in the Big 12, there legitimately could be a couple of 11-win teams, and we're sitting there at the end and be like, you're going to kick Texas Tech out because they lost a 3-point game in the championship game? Are we going to do that?
Okay, here's my problem with the logic that you're bringing up, because it's fair to say with any coach in the playoff mix, we need to see said player or said coach rather accomplish, pulling off a big victory in a season where they're going to face Clemson in the ACC championship game, likely based on my projection that I'm putting out there with this, and they would probably lose to Notre Dame in this circumstance. I'm effectively projecting that they go 11-1 in the regular season, lose to Notre Dame, and then lose to Clemson in the ACC championship game, and that gets them into the playoff. He does tend to drop stupid games that he is not supposed to. But your logic that you just put out there of you need to see him win the big game, I'm sorry to do this to you, Blake, but Brian Kelly has just as much of an issue of getting past big opponents. He beat Bama a couple years ago. I get that. That was a huge victory for LSU recently and for Brian Kelly building a foundation at LSU. But I feel like recently, especially, that Brian Kelly has faltered in areas where he needs to step up and he needs to coach in these big games. They could beat Alabama at home this year.
Final Four playoff game too. I've also seen him. Hold on. I've also seen him in a national title, and I've also seen him in 2 playoff games too.
That was before the expanded playoff when Notre Dame had favorable schedules. And your point, he's never been to the playoff. The year that he could have gotten to the playoff, he lost to a 6-6 Bo Nix team. Yeah, you want to check it? It was 2019. Yeah, right.
So don't come at me and talk about Brian Kelly when he's literally got more accomplishments at LSU than what arguably, legitimately, that Cristobal has in his career.
Brian Kelly's been coaching. Brian Kelly's been coaching longer. Of course, he's going to have gotten there.
Years. Let's go the last 6 years. You missed a playoff because you lost to a 6-6 Auburn team. And you're accusing me of saying that he hadn't won the big one?
Joe, I'm not accusing you of anything. I'm not accusing you of anything, to be clear. But Blake, can we acknowledge the missteps here by Brian Kelly already at LSU? Forget Notre Dame for a second here.
There's a whole channel called AYS of talking about his missteps if you want to go listen to it.
But he had the Heisman Trophy winner and second overall pick and didn't get to the playoff. Last year, he should have gotten to the playoff.
Funny you say that. Cristobal had a top 5 pick in a weaker conference in the SEC and then got beat by a team that went 6-6 in said conference and couldn't do shit with it.
I'm not disagreeing with you. And to be perfectly clear here, I am not stating that Brian Kelly is a worse coach than Mario Cristobal. Not what I'm stating. I am merely stating that if we're willing to hope that Brian Kelly, which I projected on mine, by the way, I projected on mine that Brian Kelly gets over the hump this year. He gets through all the adversity. He gets to the playoff. He's capable of winning playoff games this year. That stuff I'm not disagreeing with. But my whole premise that I'm arguing with you is if we're willing to look past the missteps and the failures of Brian Kelly and project to him succeed, I think it's only fair to do the same thing for Mario Cristobal. Brian Kelly, I'm not saying that Brian Kelly is less accomplished than Mario. That's not what I'm saying. I'm merely pointing out that he is also fit into that same bucket of coaches that have struggled at times.
I have them losing to Florida, Notre Dame, and then potentially Clemson. And I don't think a 3-loss team gets in over Texas Tech or Arizona State.
That I don't disagree with.
Okay, that's why they're out. So you're talking about Florida, and you thought that you almost put Florida in here, okay? If that's the case, then if that's remotely the case, then Florida is going to beat them. If you believe that, so listen, they got question marks too. I'm just rolling with the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Joey McGuire, send the check. That's all I'm saying.
All right.
Let's get to yours right here. I got to bring up, speaking of
shout out Toledo, by the way. Shout out Toledo.
Yes, shout out Toledo. We don't have them going past the first round. Joe, I'm assuming here when you have Texas and Georgia 1-4, it's the same thing that I do, but in reverse order. We both have them playing each other 3 times. How do you – I think a lot of people have Georgia and Texas in the SEC pretty much going in a 3-game battle, battling this thing out. I mean, you just got Texas winning the SEC championship. You got them beating them into the playoff. Do you think that Texas is going to overcome that and beat Georgia 2 out of 3 this season? After last year, we had Georgia that did the opposite and beat them twice.
I really do think so. And as I said in my opening statement here, they both have equally talented rosters. But if I had to establish who has the edge over these very, very similar balanced rosters that are on this, like they've got blue chip talent across the board, I got to go with the team that has the more dynamic quarterback. I think Hunter Stockton's going to be great. I've said that a million times over, but I'm buying into Arch. I've said this a ton. I am completely blindly buying into Arch Manning. I think that he is going to be tremendous this year. And I think he's going to be the driving force for why they win a national championship, because he's got so much around him. He would need to be, in my eyes, abysmal for him to not step up and to have a tremendous first year as a starter. By the way, to kind of what you just said with the scheduling, I tried a million different ways to project a world where they do not play each other 3 times, but that is going to be potentially one of the weirdest outcomes that we see, is if Texas does play Georgia 3 times on the way to a national championship.
It would mean it would have to mean a team like LSU or Alabama who doesn't play Texas does something, and because of the power ranking that they do in the tiebreakers in the SEC, that one of those teams gets in and the other does not. You would have to have somewhat, I don't want to say a 3-way tie, but you would have to have one of those 2 teams at the top, or 3-4, however it shakes out, that do not play Texas, because an LSU doesn't play Georgia, but Alabama and Georgia do play one another. Something like that would have to happen for them not to play 3 times. I think it's a little bit more simpler. We can make it that way, because of the tiebreaker and all that kind of thing that they enacted during the playoff and things like that. I can't. This is what I've been saying all offseason. I feel like I'm a broken record. I need to see Texas do it. It's kind of like the thing with Georgia and Bama. If I had Georgia going 11-1 this year, it's them losing to Bama because for whatever reason they got their number. For whatever reason that is, I need to see. I have a situation right now. I understand that Georgia is young. I know they got a lot of personnel turnover. But Joe, all those depth pieces that played defensively last year were the guys that came in when those injuries happened and they played a lot. I know Kirby has talked about youth. If they stay healthy, I think that they still can do it. I saw the worst Georgia team that I've seen in the last 5 years last season. The worst. I don't think it's remotely close. It was the worst. And I don't think all those things are going to compile. I don't think Gunnar Stockton has 12 interceptions like Carson Beck did. And I think that benefits them greatly. I do think ultimately, I think they're going to run the football more effectively. I think they're going to figure it out. I got to see Texas do it. Now, on the opposite side of that, Joe, for me, I will say this, and it's kind of tongue-in-cheek in a way, but then it's kind of talking out of both sides of your mouth. I think Texas is the most talented roster in the country. I think their front seven is the most talented in the country. The thing that I am interested about is you're replacing two DBs that had 10 total interceptions combined, in Makuba and Barron. It's a lot to replace, Joe. It's a lot to we keep talking about their front seven. I'm with you. If there's one of these pass-happy teams that can get to them, I think they can get got. I think they can get got. Georgia's not really that, right? Like, I don't know. But can Zachariah Branch, Noah Thomas, Bell, Delp, Lucky, can those guys make more of an impact than maybe they did a season ago? Very well likely could. I still think Georgia can rebound here. Again, their worst season, they still won the SEC. Here's the final thing I'd say with Georgia, okay? And it doesn't really play into the playoff, but it plays into my seeding in them at 1. I could see a world where they split the first two of these. Joe, I'm having a very hard time right now, very hard, of teams going into Athens and beating them. I have a very tough time seeing that. Joe, they've been one of the most dominant home teams in the last decade. And I'm supposed to come out here and say that they're going to start losing 2 or 3 games and not win the SEC? I can't do that. Texas is talented enough to be the team that clips them. The one thing I want to say that I'm not there yet as well, I think Arch Manning's very talented. I need to see him go on the road in some of these games and win these games because I know that he went up against Mississippi State. I know he went up against ULM. But, Joe, if he has mistakes there, he's going to have mistakes against Athens in his first year of starting. I think he's going to be, when he comes out, the number 1 overall pick, Heisman Trophy caliber. But at the end of the day in all of this, I need to see him go on the road and win.
Well, what I'm kind of projecting here, and this is going to require, I think that the committee is going to operate this way because they tend to operate this way. There's a lot of weight in what the SEC does. I think that with all the complaining this past year, they're going to consider a lot more weight in the SEC in their decision-making. I think that Texas loses to Georgia in the regular season and then beats them in the SEC championship game. And I think, to your point, it is going to be a really difficult road test for him to come in to win a national title, or sorry, to come in and beat Georgia. I don't know why I said that. To come in and beat Georgia in Athens. It's going to be really difficult.
Yes.
But at the same time, Gunnar Stockton's also in his first year starting. And I think that it would actually be to Texas's benefit if they do not beat them the first time, because as we say a million times over on this show, it's really hard to beat a good team twice.
Very true.
To your benefit, to which they failed to do last year. I would be stunned if they lost to them 2 times in a row and they lost to them in the SEC championship game, which would completely change my projection of my bracket here. At a certain point, they need to steal a game, and I think that they need the game that they would steal against them would be in that SEC championship. The last part here, I get that they're losing Makuba and Jahdae Barron, but they are still incredibly well recruited at corner, including Malik Muhammad, who is one of the best returning corners in college football.
Agreed.
So I'm giving a little bit of faith there that they're going to be fine, because this is my whole point with this. They're the best recruited roster in college football. And that is why they are as loaded as they are, and why a lot of people are projecting them to do as good as they're going to.
Joe, I agree with you. Listen, don't get what I'm saying twisted.
I know.
I mean, listen, they are the most, in my opinion, they might be the most talented roster in the country. Joe, I want to get back. I want to get to this before we kind of transition here. I have Georgia playing Penn State. You have Penn State. Where do you have them? You have them
losing to Alabama is the 3 seed.
Losing to Alabama. Okay. Let's get to Penn State. I think that they're also talented enough to get there. I don't know if they're talented enough to win it. You got them losing to Alabama. Your thoughts about Penn State?
I'm going to get yelled at by Penn State fans for this. Same logic that you just applied here with Mario Cristobal, but I think it's very different, because the conversation and the debate that we were just having was about, can Mario even get to the playoff? I think that James Franklin gets over the hump, wins the Big Ten this year. Everybody's going to be feeling really high. They're going to be feeling really great. This roster, to your point, is absolutely gifted to go on a run and to reach the national championship, which you had projected in yours. But I feel like Kalen DeBoer in this specific matchup would be the worst possible draw for them to get. This was my one upset that I wanted to go with, because you're taking Kalen DeBoer facing off a guy who's already gone to the playoff, won playoff games against an SEC caliber roster when he beat Texas a couple of years ago, and he's seen those bullets, and he survived through the SEC schedule this year. That would be the last thing that James Franklin wants to see, because that team, I think, could potentially, that defense could get caught off guard, and they could end up winning that ball game on a neutral site. So that's the big thing for me, is a team like Alabama would be an awful draw. They would need to get a favorable matchup in order to get there.
I'm pushing my chips in on Allar and the receivers, and Singleton and that offense. Second year in the Kotelnicki. I'm doing something that I did a couple of seasons ago with them, thinking that they would get over the hump. This is the year that, and I teetered with it. I didn't go all in. I'm going all in right now, because I here's what I want. I feel like I've seen a kid in Drew Allar that everybody's blamed. I'm not saying you, Joe, but just natural college football fans. They have blamed him. He could not get a receiver open in the Notre Dame game to save his life, and we blamed him as college football fans. Joe, I don't think people understand the weapons that now he has a receiver. Blake, he had Tyler Warren. Yeah, he had a big body tight end that a lot of teams bracketed in a lot of situations. What are you going to do now if you double one of those dudes and you try to spread the field out, and now you got a running game with 5 guys that can be there? Joe, I got to be real honest with you. Shit. All right. You're going to have to go out of that box against them. They're a matchup nightmare offensively if they hit on the cylinder of what I think they can do. If you go man-to-man on them now with Trevor Pena and the boys, I think I like Kyron Hudson. If you do that and what you did to them a year ago, and you leave that box 5, 6 guys in there, they're going to splatter that ass in the running game. I'm putting all my chips in, brother. I'm putting my chips in.
I'm sorry, Blake. You're going to lose a lot of money if you're putting your chips in.
I'm putting my chips in.
Because there's 2 major contingencies that I'm so fearful of. I have to bet on James Franklin to prepare his team to win against a premier opponent. They have never finished in those situations. Last year specifically, they couldn't beat Ohio State late in the game despite being positioned to win it. They couldn't beat Notre Dame despite running all over Notre Dame's talented defense. They could not get it done. They had every reason to win the ball game because they overthought it. Notre Dame couldn't tackle Nick Singleton. And for some reason, you do have, and you're forcing Drew Allar into those situations where he's throwing the ball. Why even try to throw the ball when Notre Dame could not tackle Nick Singleton? Notre Dame loses that game if they didn't overthink that and they leaned on him. The other part about this, I think Drew Allar is a really gifted young man, and I think that he's got a lot to improve upon. But I really don't love his decision-making at times. I think that he is one of the weaker top quarterbacks that we talk about for decision making that is required to win a national title. He just doesn't have it for me. He has enough decision making to win the Big Ten and for them to win big games this year and to win a couple of playoff games. But he does not have that innate killer instinct that I look for in a guy that is going to step up to the plate in a national championship setting. Look at the way that he played against SMU. Look at the way that he played against Boise State before that, and then eventually the Notre Dame game. That's where my pause is.
Again, you just made thank you for making my point. Joe, are they more talented offensively at receiver than they were a year ago?
They are.
Do they have offensive linemen, 4 of the 5 coming back?
They do.
Do they have 2 running backs?
All these things are true.
Okay. Then where's the next?
Make the decisions, though. He has to make those decisions.
Joe, decisions are very easily made when you got a dude like Malik Neighbors or whatever, who was the last Heisman Trophy quarterback. I'm thinking Malik, who was before that? Bryce Young had Humst. I mean, it's very easy to make decisions when you got one-on-one coverage with bona fide dudes. Joe, they could not get separation. Let's pop on. You know what? This is what we're going to do on Saturday. When you and I ain't doing shit, we're going to go back and rewatch the game, you and I. And
I've rewatched that game like 4 times.
Okay, we're going to watch every rep by the wide receivers and watch them get stuck on white on ice in a snowstorm on a paper plate in the middle of
Ole Miss brought one of those guys in, and I believe he's a projected starter at the current moment.
They also brought in Juice Wells, and he only caught 30 passes in 2 seasons.
If he's good enough to start in the SEC, then it shouldn't have been a big deal.
They upgraded with Trevor Pena alone. I saw Trevor Pena do stuff to first-round corners. That guy's the first-round corner. And Pena bent him over and smacked that ass.
But the gap between what it was last year and what it is this upcoming year, it is larger. It's a lot more better, more impactful. It's a lot more dynamic. It's more diverse, different types of guys that you can throw to. But it isn't so much so that it fixes the mistakes that Drew Aller makes in his decision-making. He makes a lot of mistakes.
He's in a 2-minute warning situation against Notre Dame, and the receiver couldn't get separation, and y'all are blaming him for that. You can't say that they can't get It's the stupidest thing I've ever heard from people. They can't get separation, but then they're not making plays. He's not calling the plays. He's not putting himself in those situations.
I know that he's not putting himself in those situations. That, to me, is a Kotelnicki James Franklin issue that led to that point where they could have sealed the game and pulled away much earlier, but they made a bunch of coaching decision errors. But I also have a game where he threw 3 interceptions against USC.
Fair.
It was a bad secondary, very mediocre secondary.
I saw Arch Manning, who you're high on, throw 2 interceptions against ULM.
One player is a 5th-year player. I believe Drew Aller is a 5th-year player, and Arch has played 2 games.
Okay, but you can't say that one guy's better than the other when literally you had Arch, who's a first-time starter, and you're projecting something for him, but you can't, now that a guy's got weapons, now not project for the other dude.
Some guys have it, some guys don't. It's hard. It's a thing that's hard to describe. We have a super chat from Elks.
I see it. Anything else you want to? Anything you want to else get to this?
Well, Alex is criticizing my Ohio State placement, so I'd really love to address this.
Yes, Joe says that about Arch and what's around him, but Ohio State at 9, losing round 1 with more rounds saying. Joe is just an Ohio State hater.
First of all, Julian saying, obviously he has Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate, does not have more around him. Completely new running back room. CJ Donaldson's your best running back coming in this year, and he's average. He's a decent player. You have a deep, talented running back room at Texas that is 10 times better than what Ohio State has. The Texas defense, this is the whole talking point that I'm having. The Texas defense is incredibly loaded. Incredibly loaded. It has so much talent on that defense. There is a stark difference between Texas's defense and Ohio State's defense because all of the Ohio State top defensive linemen left and went to the NFL draft. And most of them got drafted pretty damn early. So what do we do? They're going to be a good team this year. They're going to be 10-2. But to expect them to win back-to-back national titles with that much of a hard reset, with 2 new coordinators, one guy who already got demoted, why are we making this jump that they have to be a top-seeded team? It doesn't mean that I hate them. It means I'm being realistic.
They won a national title and they were the 8th seed. So how are you a hater?
That circumstance is so unique. And also, by the way, when they were the 8th seed, I would love to go back and listen to the clip where you and I said that despite them being the 8th seed, they might be in the best position.
We picked them to win the national title.
Yeah. Whatever.
Anyway, we got some breaking news here. Ty Simpson's been named the starting quarterback for Alabama after we did this segment.
Yeah, I love that.
So now when we clip this video, we just got to go in and say, hey, we were live when he was technically named the starting quarterback.
Well, I don't know if I might just not clip it anymore. Do you want to just end the show with talking about that and we can do Heisman picks on Wednesday?
Yeah, we can do that. That's completely fine with me. Fine. Joe, it is being reported right now, even though we talked about him in the beginning of the show, Ty Simpson has been named the starting quarterback for the University of Alabama. I know we talked about it once, but now that this is somewhat breaking, your thoughts?
He is the best guy for this offense. And I know that at the beginning I was trying to point out the excitement for Keelan Russell and how he was brought up into the mix. It had nothing to do with me projecting who was going to start or not. Ty Simpson is not identical to Michael Penix, but his skill set is a lot better for Ryan Grubb's offense for this team to succeed. I think that he is going to be more of a facilitator. I think that Jalen Milroe was an incredibly gifted athlete who struggled at times and did not have the necessary processing in order for the offense to work last year. This team, though, still, I think, is going to lean on the receivers because that's what happened at Washington. I think that outside of Ryan Williams, we could see an emergence of someone unexpected that could capture the moment because they've got so much big production out of receivers within this offense.
As we stated before, and to talk about it again, I don't think Greg McElroy, as stating, ran out there and said what he said unless he saw something pretty bona fide. The same day that he clips something and he puts it out there saying that he looks really freaking good is the same day that the kid's going to be named the starter or has been named the starter. Joe, the kid must have impressed. And clearly you have Ryan Grubb, as we talked about a week ago, going out there saying, hey, the biggest thing that I've seen of the entire offense has been Ty Simpson's growth. So number one, of all the things he could have mentioned, running game, O-line, tight ends, wide receivers, running backs. He just said, hey, Ty Simpson's grown the most by far. I think that when you have coaches that go out there and say stuff like that, the writing becomes on the wall. But, Joe, I kind of feel like that this was the inevitable, and they had a scrimmage on Saturday, and he won it over. He ended it. First time that he got a chance to end it, he went out there and ended it. Now comes the second question that we got to ask. All right, this kid was in a battle, and shit, he made it so convincing that it was over in the blink of an eye. It took him a week. What did he do? How much better can Alabama be if they have more consistency at quarterback with the guys that they have on defense, with everything that they have returning, and Ryan Grubb? If I'm a Bama fan, I'm starting to buy this juice. Pause.
So that's a really good point that you just brought up there. The fact that this was so.
Is that the first time you've complimented me all show?
No. I compliment you all the time. The fact that this happened so expeditiously and that you didn't wait until, because there's no benefit to doing this. There's not. You have a Power 4 opponent, a premier brand in Florida State that thinks that they're going to knock you off,
which is so stupid.
It does not benefit you to reveal who the starting quarterback is going to be because it allows for them to not completely prepare because there's not really any film on Ty Simpson, but to prepare for a specific player in mind under center. If you're this confident, it means two things. He's dominating. There's a clear separation between him and Austin Mack. And most importantly, he's establishing himself as a leader, and you do not want to take that out from underneath him. You want him to be able to capitalize on the momentum of rallying the locker room as early as possible. I think that that's probably a driving force of this. Here's my biggest thing with Ty Simpson, though, and what we need to see from him this year. I think what hurt them a lot last year was that Jalen Milroe showed a lot of indecisiveness.
Mm-hmm.
I think that we need to see Ty Simpson, which we don't have enough of a sample size to really know truly if he's going to be a better decision maker, but he's got to be reactive. He's got to be decisive. He's got to get the ball out quick. He's got to be aggressive downfield. He's not going to have his legs to lean on like Jalen Milroe did. And they're not going to be able to scheme effectively around having that extra layer. So to that point, we got to see a much more reactive quarterback under center in Ty Simpson.
Accuracy.
Yeah.
Who is the best at getting our playmakers? We think we have really good playmakers. Who's the best at getting Ryan Williams to football? Apparently, per Greg McElroy, Ryan Williams and Ty Simpson really look good together. So if that's the case, and you think Bama's defense is who they are, and you're going ones versus ones, Joe, I mean, again, per McElroy, he's talking about them twice. I mean, he doesn't say this, but he says he talks about it in his clip. He led him down the field. He missed one throw on a back shoulder. Guys got mixed up. And then the only other pass that he missed in the scrimmage is he thought a guy was going to sit on a route, and he didn't sit on a route, and they misread one another. Okay. By the way, McElroy said that he thought the receiver should have sat, and that Ty made the right throw. That means against this Bama defense, he's leading them down the field. I get you're playing against your same team. But the problem is that you got a kid that's dominating, like you talked about, right now against your own team. He's going to run out there against Florida State, and we're going to find out. Now, in reference to FanDuel, you have a situation with Ty Simpson, Joe. He's plus 1,600 to win the Heisman.
I ain't taking that. I'm not taking that.
I mean, listen, I'm not going to say I'm taking it either, but be honest with you, I'm not taking Jeremiah Smith at plus 1,100, right? I mean, I don't think a receiver is going to win it back-to-back years. Like, there are a couple – we're pointing him out, but there are a couple of guys that are up there that don't really deserve to be on there either. Joe, I said this in the beginning. I'm going to bring it up again. There is something brewing where confidence is starting to take place in Tuscaloosa. There's a lot brother, Bama's oozing confidence right now. Like it, love it, or hate it, they feel like they're going to be a really damn good football team.
They are. On FanDuel, their win total is set at 9.5, and this has been a big conversation point and one of that you and I have debated. I still really think that their interior defensive line with Tim Keenan and James Smith is going to be super dynamic. I think that Deontay Lawson is going to be great at linebacker for them. They might have the best DB room in the SEC, or just at least, the best corner room. It's all going to come down to the pass rush that they can generate. And two, does this group of offensive linemen, which there's 3 of them currently that are on the radar of the NFL pretty highly, can those guys take steps forward in order to play to their potential? There's a lot of talent that I think needs to be actualized. And I think that was something that I brought up sometimes defending Alabama last year, was that they were pretty young in a lot of areas. A lot of young guys that were making mistakes that just weren't stepping up to the moment in certain situations. I think that the vast adversity that they saw last year is going to help them mature and take a step forward.
Very well could. Very, very well could. And I think, look, Bama in year 2 under Kalen DeBoer, can they make a move will be the ultimate question. Last thing before we get out of here. The AP poll dropped today. Anything you want to say about the AP poll? Here was my 2 thoughts. Oh, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. You go ahead.
What did Georgia Tech ever do to anybody? Because I don't think there is 25 better teams than them, number one.
Yep.
Number 2, who in the Rudy Poo hell did Eli Drinkwitz piss off? Because how many 10-win seasons do they have to have before you throw these Rudy Poos up there? I don't have to have Boise State in there. I mean, with all due respect to Boise State, I don't have to have them in there.
No respect to Boise State. They lost a top pick who was a Heisman finalist, who was the only reason they got to the college football playoff. There are vastly better G5 teams than Boise State this year. Toledo, the team that I put in there, has a better roster. Emmanuel McNeil-Warren, learn his name. They have guys that have stuck around that a lot of Power 4 coaches have tried to pluck away. I was having a conversation with an agent about that roster this morning. It is damn good. It's the Boise State thing is so stupid. Like Nicole Auerbach posted her ballot and she had Boise State on there. I wouldn't be proud of that. What do they have? Are you betting on Maddox Madsen? Yeah, that's the thing that pisses me off, Blake. It's a participation trophy to put these stupid G5 teams onto the ballot. Meaningless.
Can I throw something your way too?
Yeah.
Seeing teams like Iowa State, seeing teams like Tennessee, seeing a team, quite honestly, just going to throw this out there, seeing a team like Boise State and BYU. Joe, I mean, this is the stupidest thing I've ever seen.
They don't need to be on there. They don't need to be on there. They don't need to be on there.
Iowa State, who you take? Council Bluffs. Oh, well, let me not go Council Bluffs. Little Rock, Arkansas. Neutral field. Tomorrow, Iowa State versus Georgia Tech. Who you taking?
Iowa State versus – I'm taking Georgia Tech.
Yeah, you're damn right you are.
Yeah.
I mean, same question. Are you taking Iowa State or are you taking Missouri? Because I don't know. I don't know what else Eli Drinkwitz has got to prove.
To that point, before we get out of here, Iowa State, Kansas State, to just reiterate that, should not be top 25 teams. They were put on there so that I don't know if this was deliberate or not, so that first week's year matchup looks better than it is. And I'm excited for it.
There it is.
Kansas State is going to be a good team this year. Iowa State lost two of the best receivers in the country last year. BS that these teams are top 20 teams. Top 20 teams.
I agree with you, man. I agree with you. All right, Joe, we'll see everybody again on Wednesday. Until then, y'all have a great night. Peace out, Girl Scouts.